You are listening to the Step Up to Life podcast, where we discuss God and the biblical gospel in America and around the globe. If you're interested in finding out more about the global ministry of Step Up to Life, you can find us online at stepuptolife.com. Hey guys, welcome back to the Step Up to Life podcast. Today we have Jason Hurt with us from Chariots for Hope, located right here in Omaha, Nebraska. He's going to tell us a little bit about how God surprised him. He's out on the East Coast, originally from the Midwest, I believe, and he and his wife, Michelle, found themselves prayerfully considering a whole new direction in life. And then you'll get to hear a little bit about how they've been connected with Step Up to Life in the recent months. So welcome to Step Up to Life. If you're new to us, we're glad to have you. If you've been listening for the last year or so, welcome back. But Jason, welcome to the show. We're glad to have you here.
Yes, it's an honor. Thanks for the invite. Excited to be here. So thanks.
Absolutely. Well, tell us, okay, so for those who are listening and don't know anything about what is Chariots for Hope, give us a little bit of background on who you are and kind of what is Chariots for Hope, and then maybe some of the backstory on how did this all come about?
Sure, absolutely. So, yeah, we're a local ministry. We started here in Omaha, Nebraska, and I always start off by saying we're a lot like Habitat for Humanity, but for cars. And so what we do is we team up with other nonprofits. It's referral-based, Christ-centered, but we team up with other nonprofits, and we really focus on individuals that are kind of getting back up. They've been knocked down by life. They're getting back up. They're on the road to self-sufficiency, providing for their family. They're back in work, and they're just struggling with transportation. And so we come into the mix and help these individuals find reliable transportation so that they can continue their journey forward. But it's really just a carrot to get into their life. Because probably I would say about 85% are single moms, and not all of them are ones that don't trust the church or they don't have any relationship, but a lot of them are, and they're kind of in that space where it's like, just give me my car, I'm not interested in the church thing. And so it's a unique opportunity to be able to sit down and share the gospel with them. And so we do that. We walk with them. We get them transportation. There's educational classes that they have to take. There's absolutely, moments of discipleship and community events that we have. But it's a program. It's not a car. We're not a car lot. We have no interest in just here's your car, have a nice day. It's here's your car. And the nice thing about what we do is that the cars that we give, and we don't give them, but the cars that we award these individuals, they're high miles, older cars. That are going to have some things go wrong with them. And so in order for them to go ahead and come back and make sure that we're having touch points, we provide a warranty. And so that's how they come back and saying, hey, if something were to go wrong, they have to come back to see us because
Interesting. Okay.
It's all covered by the program. But when they come back, that's when we can go ahead and just pour into their life, how they doing. And so it's usually it's a 6-month program that we have. But so in a nutshell, that's it. It's reliable transportation for people who are getting back on their feet. And for us, it's sharing the gospel every opportunity we can get.
Wow. That's amazing. It's really thoughtful in terms of its long-term trajectory. You're not just one and done, here's a good thing we did, although that would be good in a sense. This is much more of a relational connection that you're describing.
Yes, absolutely. That's what it's about, relationships. And the community piece is the heart of what we do. A lot of them are living in isolation. They have horrible community, toxic relationships. And so, this is an opportunity for them to go ahead and experience freedom, not only at a secular level with the car, but the freedom that can be found in Christ.
Sure.
And so we're just seeing crazy, amazing things happen as a result of them getting the car and able to provide and get better jobs, but then also being part of a family that they've never experienced before.
Right. So we're going to circle back to those two pieces in a minute, but rewind the clock for us. Tell us, you were out in New York, I believe, for a while, originally from about St. Louis, Missouri. Yeah. How'd you end up out in New York, and why are you back in the Midwest?
Exactly. Me and my wife still talk about that, so I don't know if we're 100% sure.
Still wondering.
Yeah, right. So I had a corporate job that moved me all around. Was fortunate, I guess, to be at the right place at the right time. Was getting promoted and just lived in a lot of different big cities, and New York was the last one that my company moved me to. I was in charge of the claims department. We were out there just living on top of the mountain, from a worldly view. And so just making great money, and it was just a great job. Hurricane Sandy, I don't know if you remember Hurricane Sandy, but it was a huge storm that came through and just devastated New York. It was kind of like the Katrina for New York. And so I was out there. I was responsible to manage that storm, and that was my come to Jesus moment, where it's just, I grew up in the church, had amazing parents, and it was almost like I was saved by association. right? Didn't have a real relationship. It was fake and phony. I had an addiction problem, but my addiction was to money and success. And so I was climbing up the ladder and moving hard and fast and was literally facing generational wealth when Sandy, God used that storm to open my eyes and pursue me and realize that, hey, you don't have a real relationship with me. And so it was at that moment where I just completely surrendered, repented, asked God to just change me. I'll do whatever you want. I firmly believe one of the biggest mission fields, if not the biggest, is corporate USA. And so, hey, if you want me to be here and just start really being bold in my faith, I will, or take me, do whatever you want. Yeah. But be careful what you ask for.
Oh, boy.
Because he's like, no, he's ripping me out of the corporate space. And then, that's kind of what led me to Omaha. Because of time, I can get into that, but I'll say that was a lot of God moments during that process of praying and what you want me to do. But Omaha was it. Me and my wife packed up. We moved here to start a franchise. It was a faith-based franchise called Christian Brothers Automotive. And that's kind of what led our journey to Chariots. We got here. It was an opportunity to buy into this franchise. Christian Brothers, they build everything from the ground up. They don't buy existing buildings. So if you're interested in partnering with them, then you have to go ahead and either buy an existing business or wait for one to be built. And so Omaha, the owner here, was from Texas, and so he purchased the franchise. When they originally told me that, hey, we've got a possibility for you to go ahead and get into this this company, but it's going to be about 3 years. And we're like, no, that ain't going to happen. 3 years, I'm looking I think God's calling me to do something now. I'm still trying to force it instead of let God leading. And that's when they came back and said, well, we do have one location right now. And they were the fastest growing franchise at that time. One location in Omaha. The owner from Texas actually backed out midway through the process because his uncle died and gifted him a farm. So he decided to go back to Texas, and so he's like, we've got this. We're looking for a new owner. And like my wife in the background's going, no. We are not going to Omaha. We lived in Atlanta, St. Louis, Chicago, New York. We're just big city folk. And so, she wasn't too pleased with that. But I'm like, no, let's do it and give it a try. So I was right in the middle of Hurricane Sandy. We're like, we're doing it. Let's go ahead and check out Omaha. And we fell in love. We had 24 hours. That's all I had.
Was it the Runzas? What was it?
I think cornfields,
Cornfields
I
and
can
Runzas.
breathe.
Link, for those listening who don't know what a runza is, can you please enlighten them? Here's a little footnote.
It's a I don't know if it's an Omaha thing or a Nebraska thing, but it's a unique sandwich. Basically, a bunch of dough with cabbage inside.
Right.
Sometimes they throw in some hamburger or mushrooms.
Yeah.
The mushroom and cheese is not bad.
It's not bad.
But,
Runza is not sponsoring this podcast, just in case you're wondering.
No, but that's a thought.
But if you want to, you can call Lincoln at
That's right. Okay.
Funny.
So you were in Omaha, and in 24 hours, you had to make a decision.
We walked the grounds, prayed over it, got this newfound faith, man. I'm just ready to go. And we just both felt at peace.
Wow.
We kind of learned at an early stage that, God's not a God of confusion, and we both had to, be at peace about this. And we were at peace in that moment. So we knew, let's pursue it.
Wow.
So we went back and actually told them that, we want to go ahead and complete the application. So we did, and the application actually, a lot of franchises today, if you got money, you're in, right? I mean, they just want your money, and not this one. This was an intense application process. And so we did, and after multiple interviews, went to Texas. That's where they're headquartered. Sat through the interview, and long story short, we got it, and we're on our way. Yeah, we're packing up and on our way to Omaha in 2013.
Wow.
So.
Okay.
Yep, and that's. I could pause. You want me to keep going? I mean, I don't want to.
Well, okay, so that raises a little bit of a question. Now, is that something you're continuing to do, or did you transition from that to Chariots?
Yeah, so the story is we moved here, and we didn't have Chariots at all. It was just, hey, it's Christian Brothers Automotive. My goal was I could share my faith because they were Christ-centered. I could be bold in my faith in that organization. Me and my wife, we felt we're called to do it together. And also, still with the business background, I'm going to go ahead and own multiple franchises, right? Okay. We've still got that kind of 1 foot in and 1 foot out, and it's still kind of addicted to money, even though at the time I would have told you no. And so I'm still kind of testing and learning, and God's thrown me through the fire. And so that's what we did. And so literally for the year, we were focused on the business, but I would say towards the end of our first year, God just started bringing in a lot of single moms. Single moms, or even out in West Omaha, there's a lot of need. And these are folks that, man, their cars were horrible, last leg, and we really couldn't do anything for them. And just seeing the desperation and just the hopelessness, like, well, you may have friends, you may have a second car. I don't know how to get around. I don't know how to do life. Like I'm literally one water pump away from spiraling out of control. And so we just saw that it was a heavy burden. And so we just started researching, and it's like, man, there's nothing here for these folks. And so I started helping them on the side, but then it's like you're at this crossroad where I can't continue to do this. I can't continue to go ahead and try to, do some ministry work on the side and still build a brand new business. And so I had to make a decision. And me and my wife went back and just said, do you think God's calling us into ministry? Could this be the case? And maybe in the transportation area? And so we just really, for the next few months, just wrestled again, kind of what we did in New York about next steps. We prayed like, God, do we stay here? Do we go ahead and give up this business and sell it after a year, which was a horrible business move. Buy a house or a business, and after a year sell it. It's not going to be good for you.
Yeah.
So we did. We just felt after a couple months, we just felt this absolute peace that, it's time to step out of the boat. I called you here for ministry, not for this for-profit. And so we're like, wow, okay. And it's just like we were all in and excited. We went back to Christian Brothers, right? And
now this is you got here in 13.
13.
And now what's the
15.
year?
15. This is the end of 14.
End of 14, okay.
End of 14. So this is like December 14. We kind of knew, and we're reaching out to them and saying, hey, I think God's calling us into ministry.
Yeah.
And so the CEO and the COO of Christian Brothers was on the phone, and you can imagine how many people, right, that buy their business, buy a franchise from them, and then later say, "Oh, God's calling me."
Oh, right.
And so they were very skeptical and very like, "That's cute, Jason."
It's the divine bailout.
Yes, the divine bailout. And they're like, "Well, that's wonderful, that's great, but it's still your business, and you're going to have to sell it. Have a nice day." So, I didn't know what to think. Like, it really was coming from a pure heart that we were so excited that we knew God was calling us. And we didn't know. Like, we were gonna lose $100,000+ of real money because of contractual things. But we didn't care. We just knew this is it.
Wow.
And I think that was part of also God saying, hey, releasing the stronghold that I had on money.
Oh,
right?
sure.
So I think that was part of that development. But it's like, we're in. And when they said that, we went back and we're like, well, maybe that was a train that we saw, not the true light coming our way. Like, maybe this isn't the moment. And so we just kind of sat, rested, and just kind of started praying, going, Lord, obviously we thought you wanted us out like quick, but that's not the case. So we're refocusing on what you called us here for. And we did. And we continued to do some ministry on the side, and just like, I don't understand it, but let's focus. And it wasn't but 30 days that we got a call back. And at that time, we were posting little things on social media. They kind of knew we had a heart for that. So they were just sitting back monitoring and praying themselves. Lots of credit to them. And so they called back and said, hey, Jason, just want to let you know we've been praying as an organization. And we do believe that God's in this. And we're going to completely let you walk debt free.
Wow.
Wow.
And I was on the floor crying, and my wife was. It's just not something they do.
Oh, my word.
And so we knew then that God was in this and that it was time.
Yeah.
So it was still to this day very emotional for us, because it's just like, wow, like that's the first time, when you're growing up and you're thinking you're fooling everyone about your faith, but you truly see God answering prayer for the first time. It's just overwhelming. And so we knew, we're like, wow, that's awesome. And so I had this roller coaster ride on the phone call with them. And they said, oh yeah, but by the way, we found somebody they're going to come and take it over in 2 weeks. We're like, wait a minute, like, what about a paycheck? And what about, like, I don't have any supporters? Like, I had no supporters, nobody backing this mission other than just knowing that God wanted us to do it. And so it's like, now I'm back down to all of a sudden looking at the water like Peter did and keeping my eyes off of Christ. And I just felt like I started drowning with that same phone call.
Sure.
Like, okay, that's awesome. Thank you. Great. And trying to play it off to them, getting off the phone. And it's like, I don't know what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
So what do I do is that I immediately go back to my small God, to my golden calf. And it's like, well, I'm going to have to go find something until this gets up and running, So I go out there and I find another job, and I'm pouring into it. And so I'm pouring into another job that I'm doing right now until God gives us money for this. And my wife, thank God for godly wives. I would say probably 2 weeks into this process, right after this individual came and took over, we're literally out on our own. Is that the Grammy music?
Just keep
shut
going.
up.
Yeah, every once in a while. For those of you listening,
Right.
Oh, there it is.
Have a timer that plays tricks on us on occasion.
It's a God wink.
The lights go out, so continue.
Oh, no. So anyway, my wife just said, Jason, I just don't understand you. Like, God just completely moved a mountain for us to get out of the job that we were in so we can focus. And we both knew focus full-time on ministry. And you're right back. You're not able to focus on it. You're now trying to create money. God's either can provide or he's not. And so it's like, wow, man, that slapped me in the face.
Yeah.
Just convicted.
That's hard to hear.
Yeah, just lack of faith. I quit that day. Came back and said, I don't know how you're going to provide. I mean, we had some savings. I knew that, but again, I didn't want to dip into that.
Sure.
And I'm not wealthy, so it's not like I could just do this for years. So it's like, okay, that's what we're going to do.
Yeah.
And it's one of those moments, we've all heard it in ministry, where it's like, I really can't. I look back in the first 2.5 years, we didn't collect a paycheck. It was just God showing up and saying, hey, I'm going to provide you. I'm going to gift you with that. It was like, wow. And that's where we were developed. That's where I truly basically surrendered 100% to Christ. Was during those couple of years. Yeah. And then that's Chariots started, 2015 was our first full year. Okay. And we made about $13,000.
Oh my.
So yeah. And this is the funny story. 10 of that was Christian brothers that basically said, hey, we want to bless a single mom. We're going to give you 10,000 and then we want you to.
Sure. Oh my. That's
Wow.
So
That's wild.
That's the
wild.
beginning of it. So
before we shift gears here, for someone who's maybe in a analogous situation, maybe not with cars or that type of ministry-based connection, but is facing some of those similar dynamics, questions, doubts, fears, speak to that person for a minute before we shift gears and just maybe give them some. What would you have maybe told yourself in those moments, looking back, if you could kind of travel back in time and say, hey, Jason, let's take a walk around the block.
yes.
What would you say to that person?
So for me, I really do believe, obviously God speaks in multiple ways, but for me it was just, I would have said, hey, get godly counsel in your corner, making sure that you have people that are wise, that are, have been there, that have done that can speak life into you. And, I obviously had my parents, but I didn't have a lot of those people doing that. And I didn't want to go to my parents. And so, just because of maybe some pride or whatever. And so I just didn't have like a lot of folks there. So before, if I had to do it all over again, I would have really found those people that were not afraid to speak truth into my life. That didn't just say like, bob their head and say, that's a great idea, Jason. So, because God speaks to those people. And then my prayer life wasn't consistent. So going back now, I just saw as I became more consistent in my prayer life, things changed for me and my wife in the ministry. And so I would have said, man, I would just be consistent. Don't give up. All right, because God speaks through prayer. And then, I don't know this is cliche-ish, but then again, and then the Word. It was one of those times where, and whenever basically I had kind of a rocky season, then I'd stop reading, I'd stop studying, I'd stop pouring into God's Word, and try to do it on my own. And so it was just so much inconsistency in those three areas that if I had to do it all over again, I would make sure that I had people around me that you're going to be solid in those areas. And it all starts with, again, just having that group, that support group that's just not afraid to tell you and call you out.
Sure.
And so those are the three areas that once I saw consistency and I started seeing growth in those areas, it was game changer for me.
Yeah, wow.
It was game changer. I mean, it is that easy, you know.
So basically, you're describing going from this mindset of self-reliance to godly-based community reliance, where you're trusting not mainly in your prowess as a businessman or an investor or whatever, although God may use those things, but the people God's placed around you, His Word, and a constant expression for God to help you through prayer. And trust is the theme I'm hearing here.
100%. And I was. I mean, again, and you do this when you're a new Christian. You do it when you're a mature Christian. But it's like I'm leaning on my own understanding. It's like I got this business background. I got this God. I'm putting Him on the side. And I was learning where it's like, no, He's leading. He's truly leading, and how I go ahead and navigate through that in all three of those areas.
Right.
100%. Yeah.
Right.
And it's just, it was just at that point, then you just had this understanding, this peace that came over us. And then I'd also say this, for me, it was me and my wife, we were called together. So it's just going back to just a lot of decisions where when we were not in agreement and at peace together, it was chaotic and a mess. When we stopped and paused and continued to come together as a couple and prayed through that and sought, Him and wanting to know, from him through the word and prayer time, what we needed to do. Man, and then we had that supernatural peace, and it's like, okay, now we can go ahead and go forward because we're both there. Sure. Instead of fighting each other and saying, well, no, we're just going to go ahead and do this and see how it turns out.
Or one trying to convince the other or push them a little bit or something.
Yeah. So just being equally yoked in that area and just both, being on the same page because we're both called to this ministry.
Sure. Yeah. So if that's you, if you're at a major crossroads, I hope you're taking notes, or you can go back and look at the transcript here and kind of maybe ask yourself some questions. Am I doing these things, or am I kind of trying to force this on my own power? So Lincoln, how in the world did you get to know Jason and his wife and Chariots for Hope? Tell us a little bit about that connection with Step Up to Life here.
Well, we were both in kind of a leadership cohort that met actually online most of the time. Maybe the first meeting we were all together. I don't remember.
Yeah, maybe an in-person, but online mainly.
Yeah,
right?
Mostly. So we had a monthly meeting online, and so there were a couple other guys, one in particular, and so we'd meet together, guys and gals, and then we'd break out. So we had a breakout group with the guys. So it was basically 3 of us most of the time.
Yeah.
And so we had assignments during that 45 minutes. Share your God thing, hard thing, and there was another thing.
Yeah, or the God thing, hard thing,
and whatever thing.
Whatever.
Something. That's what
there was a third thing.
I could tell it was very impactful and memorable.
We're just getting old.
Actually, it was good. It was good. So that's actually where we met.
Okay.
And then started wanting to know more about Chariots of Hope. And I think you guys want to know more about Step Up to Life. And so we connected a little bit there. Yes. And then you guys invited us in to do some training with your team. And then get some of the booklets and resources to use in your ministry. Yes. So that's a quick overview on how we met. And then we've gotten together a few times and found that there's a real camaraderie and what's the right word? Chemistry or something?
Yeah, definitely chemistry.
Yeah. Just we could have talked for. It's one of those things you could talk for like 5 hours.
Yeah,
at a time.
Exactly.
Like we got to get out of here.
Right. So easy. You look down, you're like, man, it's been 3 hours.
Totally. Oh.
So you resonated, and then you and Michelle must have seen something like, wait a minute here, this could be helpful in the context of what we're doing.
Yes.
I mean, you already expressed that. Obviously, you're doing a practical thing in providing people reliable transportation.
Yes.
But that wasn't really the driver.
No.
You wanted people to know Christ. And so something happened where you thought, wait a minute, this could be helpful. Tell us about that process.
Yeah, I'm almost embarrassed to tell you about this process because I've known Lincoln now, like I said, and it was just, I remember meeting him. And this is a funny story. And I went back and I was telling some people about this group. And I'm like, and I did, man. I just like, you blessed me the minute that I met you. It's just like, this guy's filled with wisdom. I know it's God's favor over him. It's just, I can learn from this dude. Like, I wanted more, I didn't want to be weird. Like, dude, can we be friends and like go out for coffee? So I just was cool for the first year. But, and then I go back and tell people, like, who is it? I'm like, Lincoln Murdoch. Yeah, because I'm not from here. So they're like, you met Lincoln Murdoch? Like, you're kind of a big name here, dude. And so
people need to.
And so I'm like, who is this Lincoln Murdoch guy? And it's like, I just know he's a good guy and I want to get to know him. And so no, I just and so we're sitting here, we're in this relationship, we're in this monthly meeting, we're building this friendship, and all the same time, I'm just like, man, one of the struggles we're having in our ministry as we're growing is like, we need a framework for sharing the gospel, right? Like we're doing it, we're testing it, we're trying it, and it's like, this is cute. And then I think it was like 3 years in. I mean, I'm not saying I'm the smartest person in the room. 3 years in, I'm like, Lincoln Murdoch, Step Up to Life. I mean, of course, that's our framework. Like, we need to invite them in. And I reached out, I'm like, do you mind, can we actually use you guys? I mean, I think there's something here, a partnership. And so, it just made sense. And then when you guys came out, our team absolutely fell in love with you, your material, what God is blessing here. And so, we have expectations and we're excited as far as bringing you guys and building on what you guys have already, the first training session. I know there's so much more. We just got to find time, but we use that. It's out on our tables when they come in. We're taking people through that one-on-one. I mean, it's already blessed our ministry beyond belief.
Wow. That's awesome.
But we were just looking for a framework, and it just made sense.
Sure. Right. Yeah, because it's one thing to want to share the gospel, and I think most Christians do want that on some level. At least I would hope so.
Right.
But then it's another thing entirely to actually step out and do it in a way that you can feel is clear, makes sense.
Yes.
And I would even just add efficient.
Yeah.
I think this friendship evangelism thing has kind of run rampant to the point where it's almost as if I need to build a relationship with you for 12 years, and then I might invite you to church if I feel like it and I'm not scared that day. And if you tell me no,
good.
then maybe I won't do it again for 10 more years.
That's good. Yep.
And then if they do express interest in the gospel, it's almost like you take them from 0 to 60 in half a second, and then we have the other problem, which is what we often address, and we have kind of false conversion issues where people mean well,
Yep.
but just they're so nervous and they're rushing the process. And so, Link, why don't you give the listeners a preview of when we went down there, which, by the way, we enjoyed that so much. It was a great facility.
You guys do a wonderful job.
Really fun to see where you do all that, and it's kind of headquartered. Give us a preview of kind of what we did.
Yeah, well, in our first session, we kind of give a flyover of here are the steps, and even before that, we kind of talk about the problem. I found that people, if they understand and can feel the problem, which most people do when you give them statistics and understanding and scripture, they're like, yeah, that's not good. What do we do about this? And then you provide the solution. They're going to be a lot more excited about the solution if they understand the problem.
That's right.
If they don't understand the problem, then Step Up Life just another one of 100 different little gospel booklets.
Yeah.
Which it's really not. So we start with the problem, and then we get into a flyover. Here's the 5 steps, 5 conditions of the human heart towards God: unconcerned, concerned, conviction, which leads to repentance and saving faith.
Yes.
So it's like a roadmap, which is very helpful for people to see the diagram, and they can find themselves on the diagram, on the steps. Because if you don't have something like that, just talking about spiritual things, sometimes you can see the fog come over people's eyes and their eyes roll back in their head and they glaze over.
That's right.
But with the steps, it's like, oh, I think I'm here. It's so helpful bringing clarity to their own spiritual journey. So we do that. What else do? We give biblical illustrations of people who are on each one of the steps to prove out that this is biblical. We do have the Bible standing behind this. Actually, what it is, it's just the Bible.
Yeah.
It's truths from the Bible arranged in a very helpful manner.
Very helpful.
That's what it is.
Yep.
And so, we go through that, and I'm trying to think what else we do in session 1. But
We give people a chance to role play a little.
And we do, we role play a little bit.
Yeah.
We'll be up front, and I know Nick will be the person that doesn't know Jesus. I'll be the person that does know Jesus, and I'll get the booklet out and start saying, hey, we're on an airplane together, or whatever the setting is, a bus stop, or a friend, a neighbor, and explain the 5 steps. Where are you in your spiritual journey? Makes it so simple. It really is. It's a 16-page booklet that is incredibly simple to use.
Very. And I'll say from our perspective, a ministry's perspective that's getting, trained and coached in this, the role playing, I'm glad you said that, because that was probably for us. You just got to see it live and in action.
Yes.
And we're like, that makes sense. And it was so helpful. You guys left that day, and I just tell you, we were blessed. Everybody was excited. It just brings some structure. It just felt like sometimes when we get in those conversations, it's just kind of organized chaos.
Yes.
And I just need some structure to and I also need to go ahead and what if they go down this road and you're just not used to that? Well, you guys lay it out nice and easy that, hey, there's an answer for every way they try to go.
Right.
So it was very helpful. So
and with your structure of that long-term connection, the warranty, and it's not a one and done. We'll never see you again. But there's some level of expectation, either for ongoing maintenance or advice or repair, maybe that spurs the reconnection. But are you finding that you're able to engage them relationally as they've continued to interact with you, and it's worked pretty naturally?
Oh, 100%. So Cassie, that's kind of, we've got a program manager that one of her responsibilities, we call them one-on-ones for those folks when they come back, whether they're dropping off their car, then let's go have coffee, let's go out for lunch. And that's when she's able to go ahead and just go deep in with this and just, that's where the relationship is being built. And then once we have that, then they want to be part of our community. Once they're part of our community, I can't tell you the number of times, and Cassie invites them to church, right? And so it's just, a lot of these folks have been hurt by the church and they don't trust the church, right? So we don't want to be the church, but we want to be able to go ahead and use your material to pour into pour them, to plant the seeds, and then boom, let's springboard them to the church. That's our goal, right? It's like, hey, and they're going to listen to us because they need a car.
Yeah,
sure.
So we've got this huge carrot that's a real life issue, that, hey, I don't know how to do life without it. That great. Well, we'll give that to you, but you're going to
Yeah.
They're going to hear what we got to say.
Right.
And before, sometimes those conversations got very unorganized and chaotic, but now they're much easier to navigate.
Right. That's
so
encouraging
good.
to hear because that's our heart, that's our desire. It's something I found helpful too when I was pastoring full time. Was it created some organization, some clarity.
Yes.
It also gave a sense of permission not to be on the top step of, oh yeah, I know Jesus. It's almost as if we have a conversation without this, that there's a sense in which someone almost feels like they have to tell you what you want to hear. I believe.
100%.
Because they need to please you or whatever. Whereas this gives an opportunity to take a step back, pun intended, I guess.
Yeah.
And say, hey, by the way, if you're just unconcerned right now, I'm okay with that. Just tell me about it.
Now you know where you are.
Now you know where you're
Well,
at.
and if I could say this is what we're seeing, and I know we see this a lot, but it's not unique to my ministry, but really what I love and just really what hit me personally through your presentation and getting to know this material better is that you said it earlier, the false conversions. I was one of those. Raised my hand, I'm saved.
Sure.
And it's like, no, there's nothing about that in the biblical. I raised my hand, and I can tell you this, nothing changed in my life for years.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, but I'll tell you I'm saved. And so I can tell you that the people that are coming into our life, I can't tell you. The ones that are believers, and I'm being very careful with that because I understand. Like, I'm not throwing stones and judging.
Yeah.
Right.
But there's a lot of false conversions in our world.
Yes.
Sure.
And so this makes it super easy in a loving way,
Wow.
but a very clear way to
Yes.
show people that, hey, look, maybe this isn't enough.
Yes.
Right.
And so I'm so glad you said that because that really is a huge part of what we're all about. And so it's a helpful tool not only for those who have never made any commitment to Christ to give them a grid and a roadmap to follow, but in the church, it's pastors have told us like this is great because I got a lot of people in my church that I don't know if they're really truly saved.
Yes.
And this blows all the fog away,
That's it.
and they can see. I might have shared this before to one of the podcasts, but I was doing a men's retreat back in New England, and so it was a Saturday morning. Now these guys, they'd committed the whole weekend to get away, and they were all part of this church, and so you assume, well, probably most of these guys are saved.
Right.
So right before lunch, I did a Step Up Life presentation. It wasn't the whole weekend, but it was just one shot. Go to lunch, sit down. I don't know any of these guys. It was my cousin's church. He's the only one I know. So we sit down, and I'm talking to a guy, and he goes, well, that was a really interesting talk you had right before lunch. I said, oh, okay, why do you say that? He goes, well, before I heard you, I thought I was saved. He just said it.
Wow.
And I didn't hardly know how to respond, like,
Right.
good? No, that's not the right response. Or,
Yeah.
I just said, oh, okay, well, hopefully that's helpful. And so anyway, boom. A church guy who would come to the retreat for the whole weekend, paid money, probably thought he was saved, and then just presenting the steps had him help him to see that. Yeah,
That's it. And like you said, presenting the steps, all that is all you're doing is presenting the Bible.
Exactly.
It's coming straight from the Bible. There's no opinion
Exactly.
in here.
No.
It's exactly coming from the Word,
Right.
which is safe. I
Yeah.
mean, at that point, you're just...
Yeah, and that's the thing too is that the Bible's 66 different books, and most people, when they've tried to read it, have probably come to one of two conclusions: either I don't want to read this because it's hard to understand, or I tried to read it and I don't think I understood it. I'm done with that.
Right.
This can simplify it enough that they can pick up the salient points to make sense of whether it's relevant to them.
Yes.
And it's focused on where they happen to be, rather than this, and I'm indicting myself here, rather than this kind of brainiac side of if I give you all the perfect data, then you'll believe. Although that's important and has its place.
Sure.
It really cuts to the heart of where the person's at in terms of their attitude towards God, about God, and lets them just think about that for a minute, more almost like a counselor would.
That's good.
You need both, right? You got to have the information of the gospel, but then the problem is we've in America reduced it to data downloads. And you said it earlier in the podcast. Actually, I love the phrase you used. You were saved by association, but notice you weren't experiencing transformation. The power of God was not within you, giving you witness with your spirit, as it says in Romans, that you were a son of God. There was a testimony within you that knew you weren't a son of God. You were just living with cognitive dissonance.
Well, believing all the right things.
All the right things. I could tell you whatever you wanted to hear.
Right.
Sure.
Right.
But I was empty inside.
Yeah, same
Right.
here. I believed all the gospel facts.
100%.
Memorized all the books of the Bible as a kid,
That's right.
in order.
That's right.
Had it all up here, but
No.
Yeah.
it hadn't changed.
But Jesus wasn't Lord.
He wasn't.
That's
No.
He was great. He was good, maybe miraculous, but he wasn't in charge,
No,
right?
That's right.
Which makes him something, but not Lord.
And again, I just, and I remember sitting in your training session, and as you were going through that, I was going ahead and I tried there for probably about 10 or 15 minutes during, a segment of your presentation of, the 18-year-old Jason who raised his hand and said, I'm saved.
Yeah, wow.
And if I had known this and gone through this, my eyes would have been opened up and maybe I could have started a lot sooner than I did.
Yeah.
Wow.
Right?
Wow.
So, it was
That's
kind of
amazing.
cool to be able, that's why I'm saying it was personal to me, because it's like, yes,
Wow.
I'm the individual that needed this.
Wow.
Right?
It's so cool now that you are equipped not only with the ministry context, but a way to communicate it clearly and simply. And now you are the guy that creates that catalyst to have that realization for others. Has to also feel pretty encouraging.
Yeah, it is. Absolutely. And that's what's so cool about our God. He throws those encouraging nuggets every once in a while, because ministry's tough, and it's absolutely, we need that. And so, it is. It's cool to kind of reflect back on that, and you're just being used, and it's just for us, and I know you can say the same thing. It's like, it really doesn't matter about how big your ministry is, how many cities we're in. It's just, I just want to be obedient. Right? What do you call me to do, Lord? And I just want to do that,
Sure.
Right.
And so,
So I got a comment and a question. My comment is, I went to your banquet.
Yeah.
I missed it this year. I was out of the country or something. I don't
Yeah,
remember.
yeah.
But I went the year before, and what they do at the end of the banquet is they actually give a card to somebody right there live in person.
Yeah.
And I got to tell you, that was one of the most moving things to see this recipient just lose it. I mean, like their mind's blown that they're going to have this car that they pull into the place.
Yeah.
They're all cleaned up, shiny. I got goosebumps right now just
love it.
rethinking about that moment because it was so powerful, and I went away thinking this is not just a car giveaway.
Right.
This is changing a person's life on so many levels.
Yes.
And then when your team surrounded that person, it was like community, like you said.
Yeah.
So that's my comment. It's like amazing.
Thank you.
I'm so glad you obeyed God in doing what you're doing. It's so cool.
Thank you.
Practical question. This
Yeah.
is like we're up in the heavenlies now. We're down.
Right.
Where do you get your cars? Come on, people. Look, I know people are wondering where do you get these cars that you give away?
Well, he just prays, and in the morning they show up in the garage.
Exactly.
That's right. That's right. I've got a big line of credit.
Yeah.
I tell you, it's been awesome. I mean, it's harder and harder, definitely because of the season we're in. But 90%, that number used to be 99, but about 90 to 88% of the cars still come from amazing people in the community that are ready to retire their car, that have a charity, mindset, that say, hey, my car still has some life left. I want to give it back into the community. That's what they love about our ministry.
Wow.
We do take cars that are beyond repair and sell them. Right, absolutely, it's a great revenue source. But where we can, we try to take that, restoration, right? That's what, restore the car and then plug it back into the community and help a single mom. And so, the community, donors.
Okay.
Okay. That's
So,
awesome.
so if you have a car,
Yes.
come on.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, but then that begs the question. You then obviously have a fleet. That's the wrong word. You have a group of guys that are mechanics.
Yeah.
Hey, I got to interrupt you. Speaking of wrong words, it doesn't beg the question; it raises the question.
It
For all you
raises the
philosophers out there, it didn't go unaddressed. Okay, continue.
I need to sit in Nick's class after this.
Yes.
And learn the difference in begs and ass. So, because beg and ass, they seem kind of like the same thing. But anyway, obviously they're not. Because I told you, Nick's way smarter than me.
Oh,
I need to
man.
learn from
I'm
this
just
guy.
teasing
No,
him.
I know you are.
It's an educational podcast.
It's you never know what you're going to learn when you tune in. So keep tuning in. Now I forgot what the question was.
Mechanics.
The mechanics.
Yes.
Where do you find these guys, and how does all that work?
So I tell you, we've got at our campus downtown, we have some shops. We have a shop where we do all of our repairs, And God just blessed us with two amazing mechanics right now that just get it. They're mission driven.
Wow.
They could go to any other shop they wanted to, but they get the ministry.
Right.
So it's all in house right now. Okay. We do have some volunteers, and we also have some shops out there that will help us a couple times a year.
Okay.
Because they love the mission.
Nice.
So we do have some of that, but then it's in house.
Cool.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Very cool.
Yeah.
That's got to be nice too, though, because then you can kind of look at it from a very mission-driven perspective as you're assessing these different vehicles, and
absolutely,
that's awesome.
It really is, yeah. And it's just you just got so much love that's being poured into these vehicles. And again, what's nice about us is that we're not driven by profit, and so it's just you're able to take a different approach to these cars.
Yeah.
So
is there any story this year that kind of sticks out in your mind that you kind of saw God orchestrate that maybe you'd want to share with us before we kind of land the plane?
Man, yes. I mean, I would probably, there's just so many, but I'm going to tell this one because it's most recent. We just had a blessing, and we don't get a lot of handicap vans. But we had this individual in Lincoln that absolutely was just, his story, wow. Transformed, just horrible accident, horrible decision. Won't get into that. But anyway, a group of folks came together. And they came together and said, hey, we want to help Tyler because his car is gone. Oh. He had a handicap van, and so it's critical he continues to get to his appointments. And so anyway, they wanted to come together and go, partner with us to get him this new upgraded van. So we did that. It was amazing, and that alone was enough with the story, and I'm leaving out a lot of amazing parts, but it was just cool to see this collaboration come together and give this man, which encouraged his faith and drew him closer to Christ. But then he decided, he came back and said, you know what, I know you probably can't use it, but I want to donate my van back to your ministry for a small chance that you could help someone. We're like, okay, thank you, Tyler. Huh. And so we started looking at it, we're like, again, what a lot of people will look at going, you can't use this, junk it for parts. We're like, oh, no. We're going to see if there's life in this thing. There's life in it. And so we're like, cool, okay. So we don't get a lot of these, and there's such a huge need. We get people reaching out, all the time, as you can imagine, but it's not like a car.
Yeah.
They're expensive. And so we went ahead and then partnered up with Metro College. And so they have a first-class automotive shop and program. And so we know the main guy that runs it. He's been part of our ministry forever, and Metro's starting to get involved with us. And they're like, oh my gosh, let's take this and repair it, and we'll get this thing back to where it needs to be. Wow. So they took it, and they put all their students put time and effort into it. Oh. And then we had UNMC reach out found a family that's saying, hey, this family, and again, won't say the story, but wow. That was in desperate need of a van to get her to her appointments that she was missing. Okay. And so we went ahead and said, I think we've got something for her. We took Metro, and then Tyler came up. She's here in Omaha. So we were able to restore this van, bless this much-needed mom. And Metro was involved, UNMC, so you saw this beautiful collaboration. And and it was just restoration and encouragement to a family that was just needed it.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah, so you just this family that got, or this individual that got it and donated it back, and then Metro came involved and UMC came involved. It's just that's how I see God's kingdom, also all coming together and just lifting people up. So that just happened, and that's probably one. There's many others, but that was really
makes you not miss New York too much, does it?
Oh man, I'm done. New York, who? Yeah. No.
I got one final question, unless you've got anything.
No, go ahead.
Okay, so if your wife Michelle was here,
yes,
what do you think she would add to the conversation? She might share that if she hears the podcast later, she might say, "Why didn't you say this?"
Oh my goodness! Where do I start? I mean, it's constant going back and forth. Well, I would have done this. Well, okay. Well, I would have done this. She's the development. She's the big personality. She's the one that goes out there and builds, especially as we grow. I mean, I love doing that too, but I'm more behind the scenes now. And so she would want to talk about that, like, oh my gosh, there's so many cool people that donate, and we need to talk about our supporters and our donors and just all the opportunities. And I don't know if I would have got a word in if she was here, but we would have had fun.
Well, maybe we'll have to do one with just her here.
Yeah, I would highly recommend that. You'll have a better time, and it's a better, she's better looking. So, yes.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Now, just so the listeners know, you are expanding beyond the Omaha metro area. You've got some new locations elsewhere. Where are those at?
Yeah, we do. So we're in Lincoln. We're in Grand Island. We have, and we just built this affiliate program that's kind of like a franchise concept that if we want to go ahead, and that's how we see God growing this ministry, is if I have someone in St. Louis or Kansas City that wants to go ahead and launch a Chariots chapter in their city without having to do all the work, we've got the model ready. And so Kearney, there's a leadership team there that just went ahead and said, hey, we want to take over Grand Island in Kearney. So they're in the process of getting trained and launched. And then our first true affiliate program is in Wisconsin. So Nias is the executive director. They have their own board. It's a Chariots chapter, but they've been doing this now for 2 years and have been lots of growth and excitement and ministry happening.
Awesome.
So so if anybody's interested in maybe bringing one of these to their city, we've got.
Yeah, how should they reach out and contact you if they're interested in that?
Yeah, actually the best way is just my email.
Okay.
Just go ahead and reach out. Probably Jason Hurt at Chariots, the number 4 hope.org.
Okay, and that's all on your website?
It's all on the website. My phone, everything's there if you need to contact us. Yeah.
Okay,
Cool.
awesome.
Very cool.
Well, thanks for listening to the Step Up to Life podcast. If you have a ministry like Jason's and you want a more practical, clear way of getting the gospel to the people that you're helping, that's what we do. So we love partnering with guys like Jason and Michelle and Chariots for Hope who have been raised up to meet a certain need, and then we help use that opportunity to get the gospel delivered to people who maybe otherwise wouldn't hear it or be open to it. And so if that's something we can help you with, go to stepuptolife.com and check out our resources. Go to chariotsforhope.org and check out what Jason and Michelle are doing all over the Midwest. And we'll see you next time.
Yeah. Thanks.
Thank you.
That's all for this edition of the Step Up to Life podcast. Thank you for spending this time with us, and we hope you were encouraged and inspired to stick to the gospel so the gospel sticks. If you would like to support this podcast or the global ministry of Step Up to Life with a one-time or monthly financial donation, you can easily give online at stepuptolife.com. I'm your host, Nick Bank, and look forward to seeing you next time.